Episode 1. The Crack Begins. The moment I saw my best friend's tongue in my husband's mouth, I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I just started counting how many pieces of myself they were about to lose forever. I stood frozen in the doorway of our kitchen, the late afternoon light slanted through the window, catching on Ava's dark hair as she leaned into Daniel, her palms flat against his chest like she was claiming territory that had always been mine. His hands were on her waist, familiar hands, hands that had traced my skin 1,000 times, and he wasn't pushing her away. It lasted 4 seconds, maybe 5. Long enough for the air to change temperature, long enough for something inside me to snap clean in two. Then Ava sensed me. She pulled back, eyes wide, lips swollen and shining. Daniel turned, and the guilt flashed across his face so fast I almost admired how honest it was. Almost. But this isn't the beginning. This is the moment everything I thought I knew caught fire. To understand how we got here, you have to go back to when I still believed love was a safe place and friendship between women was sacred. My name is Claire. I married Daniel 8 years ago when we were both 26 and thought forever was something you could promise out loud. He was steady, kind, the kind of man who remembered how you liked your coffee and showed up on time. People said we were the lucky ones. Stable jobs, a house with a porch swing, date nights every Thursday. I believed them. And then there was Ava, my best friend since college, the one who held my hair back when I cried over failed exams, who danced with me at my wedding until her shoes bled, who knew every secret I'd ever buried. Ava was bright, magnetic, the woman who walked into a room and made everyone feel like they'd been waiting for her. Men wanted her. Women wanted to be her. I just wanted her close. I never saw the hunger underneath her smile. It started small. Daniel and I hit a rough patch about 2 years ago. Nothing dramatic, no screaming fights, no slammed doors, just distance. He was working longer hours at the firm. I was pouring everything into my graphic design business. We'd sit on the couch at night, side by side, scrolling phones instead of touching each other. The bed felt wider. The silences grew teeth. I told Ava everything, of course. Late-night wine on my patio, her legs tucked under her, listening like she always did. I just miss feeling wanted, I admitted one night, voice low. Like, really wanted. The way he used to look at me like I was the only thing in the room. Ava reached over and squeezed my hand. You deserve that, Claire. You deserve to be devoured. The word hung between us, heavy and warm. I laughed it off. She didn't. After that, she started coming over more often when Daniel was home. Girl time, she'd call it, bringing dessert or a bottle of red. She'd sit close to him on the couch, laughing at his dry jokes a little too loudly, touching his arm when she spoke. I noticed, but I told myself I was being silly. This was Ava. She flirted with everyone. It was harmless. But Daniel started lighting up around her in a way he hadn't with me in months. His eyes followed her when she moved. He'd tease her back, voice lower than usual. I watched it happen slowly, like frost spreading across glass. One night, I came home early from a client meeting and found them in the kitchen. Ava was reaching for a glass on the top shelf, and Daniel was behind her, Close, too close, his hand steadying her waist so she didn't fall. She turned, laughing, and their faces were inches apart. The air crackled. I cleared my throat, and they sprang apart like teenagers. "Traffic was light," I said, forcing a smile. Ava hugged me tight. "Perfect timing. We were just talking about you." Daniel's eyes didn't quite meet mine. After that, the late-night texts started. I'd wake up at 2 a.m. to find Daniel on the couch, phone glowing, thumbs moving fast. "Who's that?" I'd ask, curling against his back. "Just work," he'd say. Or, "Ava needed advice about some guy." Ava. Always Ava. I started feeling it then, the slow erosion, the way my stomach tightened when they were in the same room, the way Daniel's gaze lingered on her mouth when she spoke, the way Ava would catch him looking and smile like they shared a secret. I told myself I was imagining it, that my best friend would never, that my husband couldn't. But doubt is a patient thing. It whispers. It waits. Then came the night everything tilted. It was a Thursday, our old date night, abandoned months ago. Daniel said he had to stay late at the office. Ava texted me, "Wine and trash TV at yours? I need my Claire fix." I said yes, because saying no to Ava felt impossible. She showed up in a silk blouse that clung to her like a secret, hair loose and wild. We drank too much, laughed too loud, and at some point I fell asleep on the couch, the room spinning gently. I woke to voices, low, intimate, coming from the kitchen. I stayed still, heart pounding. Ava's voice, soft and rough. "You know you're not happy. I see it every time you look at her. You're starving, Daniel, and she doesn't even notice." Silence. Then his voice, barely a whisper. "It's not that simple." "It could be, if you let it." I heard movement, a chair scraping, then nothing. I must have drifted off again, because the next thing I knew, Ava was shaking my shoulder gently. "Hey, sleepy, I'm heading out. Daniel just got home, said to let you sleep." She kissed my forehead like always. "Love you," she murmured. "Love you too," I said, automatically. But when the door closed behind her, I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling. Something had shifted. I could feel it in the air, like the pressure drop before a storm. The next morning, Daniel was attentive again, making coffee, kissing my neck while I stood at the sink. His hands lingered on my hips, warm and familiar. For a moment, I let myself sink into it. But when I turned to smile at him, his eyes were distant, like he was already somewhere else. That afternoon, Ava texted me a selfie, her in sunglasses, lips pursed in a kiss. "Miss you already, best friend ever." I stared at the photo for a long time. And that's when I knew. Not everything, not yet, but enough. Enough to start watching closer. Enough to stop sharing every piece of my heart. Enough to realize the people I loved most were circling each other like flames drawn to the same oxygen. I didn't know then that in just a few weeks, I'd walk into my kitchen and see them kissing like the world was ending. I didn't know I'd stand there counting the cost. But that night, as I lay beside my husband, who was pretending to sleep, I made a quiet promise to myself. If they wanted to burn this down, they'd learn fire leaves scars, and some scars never let you forget who held the match. Episode 2. The Heat Rises. The night his hand slid up her thigh under the table while I sat 3 feet away, I didn't flinch. I didn't speak. I just felt the air turn electric, thick with the kind of hunger that devours everything it touches, and I started planning how I'd make them choke on it. You think betrayal announces itself with thunder. It doesn't. It creeps in on soft footsteps, wearing the face of someone you love. After that night on the couch, after hearing Ava's voice coil around Daniel like smoke, I stopped sleeping deeply. I'd lie awake beside him, listening to the quiet rhythm of his breathing, wondering if he was dreaming of her. His phone stayed face down on the nightstand now. A small change, a screaming one. The next few weeks were a masterclass in pretending. Ava still came over. Of course she did. She'd breeze in with takeout or a new bottle of wine, hugging me like nothing had shifted. Her perfume lingered longer than it used to, something darker, spiced, like she'd chosen it to stay on skin. On his skin. Daniel started finding reasons to be home when she visited. Early meeting canceled, he'd say, loosening his tie, eyes flicking to the door before she even knocked. I watched the way his body angled toward her the second she arrived, like a flower turning to sunlight it had been denied. One evening, the 3 of us were in the living room. Rain tapped against the windows, soft and steady. Ava sat on the couch beside Daniel, close but not quite touching. I was in the armchair, legs tucked under me, playing the perfect hostess. We were talking about nothing. Work stress, a mutual friend's messy divorce. Then Ava laughed at something Daniel said, her hand landing on his knee. Casual. Friendly, except it stayed there. Her fingers rested lightly, thumb brushing slow circles over the fabric of his slacks. Daniel didn't move, didn't remove it. His eyes dropped to her hand, then lifted to her face. The look that passed between them was molten, raw, unguarded want wrapped in the thinnest layer of restraint. My pulse thundered in my ears. The room felt suddenly too warm, the air heavy with unspoken things. Ava's lips parted slightly, like she was tasting the tension. Daniel's chest rose sharper, faster. I sipped my wine and said nothing. Later, when Ava left, hugging me tight, whispering, "You're everything to me, Claire," I stood at the sink washing glasses that were already clean. Daniel came up behind me, arms sliding around my waist, lips grazing my neck. "Missed you lately," he murmured, voice low, hands wandering lower. For a second, I let him, let the familiar heap spark. Then I pictured Ava's hand on his knee, pictured how he hadn't stopped her. I stepped away gently. "Long day," I said. "I'm tired." His arms dropped. The silence that followed tasted like disappointment and something sharper. After that, I started pulling back, in small, deliberate ways. No more sharing the details of my day, no more asking about his. When he reached for me in bed, I'd shift just enough that his hand fell away. Not dramatic, not cruel, just distant. He noticed. Of course he did. At first, he tried harder, bringing home flowers, planning a weekend getaway we both knew we'd cancel. His touches grew hungrier, almost desperate, like he was trying to rekindle something he'd already let flicker out elsewhere. But the more he chased, the cooler I became. Ava noticed too. Her texts grew more frequent. "Everything okay? You've been quiet. Miss my Claire time. Let's do lunch, just us." I replied politely, short, delayed. One afternoon, she showed up unannounced. Daniel was working from home. I heard her voice in the hallway before I saw her, bright, teasing. "Caught you flacking, Mr. Responsible." I walked out of my office to find them in the kitchen. Ava was perched on the counter, legs swinging. Daniel stood between them, close enough that her knees brushed his hips when she moved. She was feeding him a strawberry from the bowl I'd left out, laughing as juice stained his lip. He licked it away slowly, eyes locked on hers. Something twisted hard in my chest, hot and cold at once. Not just jealousy, recognition. This wasn't new. This had been building while I was busy trusting. Ava saw me first. Her smile faltered for half a second before widening. "There she is! We were just talking about you." Daniel turned, guilt flickering before he masked it. "Hey, babe." I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Clearly. The word hung there, edged. Ava hopped down, smoothing her dress, a sleeveless thing that clung in all the places mine didn't anymore. "I should go. Work emergency." She hugged me, body soft and warm against mine. "Call me later?" I nodded, didn't hug back. When the door closed, Daniel exhaled like he'd been holding his breath. "Claire." "Don't," I said quietly. "Just don't." He stepped closer, voice pleading. "Nothing's going on. She's just—" "Your friend?" I finished. "Or mine?" His mouth opened, closed. For the first time, he looked truly rattled. That night, he tried again. We were in bed, lights off. His hand found my waist in the dark, pulling me against him. His mouth was hot on my shoulder, urgent. "I need you," he whispered, body pressing hard against mine. I felt the heat of him, the familiar ache. For a moment, I almost gave in, almost let myself believe this was about us. Then I thought of strawberries and slow thumbs on knees. I rolled away. Not tonight. He lay there, breathing ragged. "Claire, talk to me. What's wrong?" I stared at the ceiling. "You already know." Silence stretched, thick and accusing. Finally, he whispered, "I thought you'd always be there, no matter what." My heart cracked, but didn't break. "That," I said calmly into the dark, "was your mistake." The next day, I did something I'd never done before. I went through his phone. He was in the shower, the screen lit up with a text from her. "Last night was torture. Being that close to you and not touching, I can still feel where your hands almost went." My blood turned to ice, then fire. I scrolled up. Weeks of messages, late nights. "She doesn't see you the way I do. You deserve to be wanted like this. Tell me you don't think about it." His replies, hesitant at first, then bolder. "I do. God, Ava, you're making me crazy. Soon." I put the phone back exactly as I'd found it. When he came out, towel low on his hips, water dripping down his chest, he smiled at me like everything was normal. I smiled back, smaller, sharper. That evening, Ava called. I let it ring twice before answering. "Hey, stranger," she said, voice velvet. "I miss you. We need a girls' night. I miss you." I watched Daniel across the room, pretending to read. "I miss the version of us that was real," I said. She paused. "What does that mean?" "You tell me." Another pause, longer. "Claire, are you okay?" I laughed softly. "Never better." I hung up. Daniel looked up. "Everything all right?" I met his eyes, steady, unreadable. "Perfect," I said. And in that moment, something shifted inside me. The devoted wife who centered everyone else, She was gone. In her place was a woman who finally saw clearly, a woman they wouldn't recognize for much longer. Because tomorrow night they were planning to be alone. I'd read the texts, and I'd be there to watch the fire catch. But this time, I wouldn't be the one who burned. Episode 3. The Fire Consumes. The moment I watched his lips trail down her throat while her fingers dug into his back like she owned him, I didn't burst in. I didn't shatter. I stood in the shadows of my own hallway and let the sight brand itself into my soul, because some truths you have to feel burn before you can rise from the ashes. I always thought heartbreak would sound loud, screams, shattering glass, sobs that tore the night apart. But when it finally came, it was whisper quiet, just the soft rustle of fabric, the catch of breath, the low murmur of my name spoken like a betrayal. I'd known it was coming. After reading those texts, after seeing the way Ava's words wrapped around Daniel like silk ropes, I'd stopped pretending. They were meeting tonight. His late meeting at the office, her girls' trip canceled. I'd come home early, on purpose. The house was dim when I slipped inside, groceries left in the car. I moved silently, heart hammering so hard I felt it in my teeth. Voices drifted from the living room, low, urgent. Hers first. We shouldn't, not here. Then his, rougher than I'd heard in years. God, Ava, I can't stop thinking about you, about this. I edged closer, staying out of the light spilling from the doorway. And there they were. Ava was pressed against the wall, back arched, Daniel caging her in with his body. His mouth was on her neck, slow, deliberate kisses that made her head fall back, eyes fluttering shut. Her hands were under his shirt, nails dragging down his skin with a hunger that looked almost painful. His palms slid up her thigh, pushing the hem of her dress higher, fingers gripping like he was starving. The air was thick with it, the heat, the want, the absolute wrongness of two people who were supposed to be mine, devouring each other in my home. She whispered his name like a prayer. He groaned against her skin. I watched for longer than I should have, long enough to see the way he looked at her, like she was air and he'd been drowning, long enough to feel something inside me calcify. Then Ava's eyes opened. They met mine across the room. For a heartbeat, everything froze. Her lips parted, swollen and red. Daniel sensed it, pulled back, turned, and the blood drained from his face. Claire. His voice cracked. He stepped away from Ava like she'd burned him, hands raised as if I held a weapon. Ava smoothed her dress down, breathing hard, eyes wide with something that might have been guilt if it weren't laced with defiance. I didn't move, didn't speak. I just looked at them, really looked. At my husband, shirt untucked, lips shining. At my best friend, hair tousled, throat marked by his mouth. And I felt calm, a cold, clear calm that scared me more than tears ever could. Claire, please. Daniel started toward me. I held up a hand. He stopped. Ava found her voice first. It just happened. We didn't mean. Don't, I said quietly. The single word cut through the room like glass. She flinched. Daniel's eyes were desperate now. Baby, listen, it wasn't planned. I love you. I've always. You thought I'd always be there. I finished for him, voice steady. Know what? His mouth opened, closed. The words hung between us. His own confession from weeks ago, weaponized. That was your mistake. Ava stepped forward, arms wrapping around herself. Claire, you have to understand. You were pulling away. He was lonely. I was there. I saw how much he needed to feel wanted again. I turned to her slowly. The woman I'd shared every secret with, every fear, every hope for my marriage. I didn't take my husband, I said, each word deliberate. You revealed who you both are. Her face crumpled. Not tears, something uglier. Regret twisted with resentment. Daniel reached for me again. We can fix this. Therapy, time, anything. I looked at his hand, hovering in the air between us, and let it hang there. I didn't take it. The silence stretched until it screamed. Finally, I turned and walked away, up the stairs, into our bedroom. I closed the door softly, locked it. Behind me, I heard them, whispered arguments, Ava's voice breaking, Daniel's pleading turning angry, then quieter. Footsteps, the front door. I didn't cry. I sat on the edge of the bed and started planning. The next days were a study in distance. Daniel slept on the couch. He tried everything, flowers, notes, hovering outside the bedroom door like a ghost. His touches, when he dared, were tentative, desperate. But I'd gone somewhere he couldn't reach. I stopped reacting. When he spoke, I answered politely, minimally. When he looked at me with those pleading eyes, I met them blankly. One morning, he cornered me in the kitchen. Close, too close, his hands on the counter either side of me, body radiating heat and panic. "Talk to me," he whispered, voice raw. "Yell, throw something, anything but this nothing." I looked up at him, really looked. The man I'd built a life with, the one who'd once felt like home. Now he felt like a stranger wearing my husband's face. "I have nothing left to say," I told him calmly. His breath hitched. He leaned in, forehead almost touching mine, eyes searching. "I made a mistake, the biggest of my life, but losing you, this silence, it's killing me." I stepped around him. "Good." He grabbed my wrist, not hard, just enough to stop me. His thumb brushed my pulse point, the way he used to when we were new and everything felt electric. "Please, Claire, I'll end it. I'll do whatever you want." I pulled free gently. "It's already ended." That afternoon, Ava showed up. I opened the door to find her on the porch, eyes red-rimmed, clutching a bottle of my favorite wine like a peace offering. "Can we talk?" she asked, voice small. I looked at her for a long moment. The woman who'd known me better than anyone, who'd listened to every insecurity about my marriage and used them like keys. Then I stepped back, not to let her in, but to close the door. As it shut, I walked past the sightlight window where she stood watching. I didn't glance over, didn't acknowledge her existence. I walked straight past my former best friend like she was already a ghost. Upstairs, I started changing things, small at first. New sheets, rearranging furniture, throwing out the throw pillows she'd helped me pick. I joined a gym, cut my hair, bought clothes that made me feel sharp, untouchable. Daniel watched it all with growing alarm. The more I transformed, the more he unraveled. One night he found me in the study, laptop open to divorce attorney websites. He stood in the doorway, looking wrecked. "You're really doing this?" I closed the laptop. "Yes." He crossed the room in 2 strides, dropping to his knees in front of my chair, hands on my thighs, head bowed. "I'm obsessed with you," he said, voice breaking. "I didn't realize until you stopped looking at me like it was yours. I destroyed everything for something that doesn't even compare." I looked down at him, at the man who'd chosen hunger over loyalty, and felt nothing but clarity. Obsession isn't love, Daniel. It's just regret wearing a desperate face. He pressed his forehead to my knee, breathing ragged. "Tell me how to fix it." "You can't." But as he stayed there, trembling, something shifted in the air. A text lit up my phone on the desk. From Ava. "I see you. The way you're moving through the world now, glowed up, untouchable, and I hate it, because he can't stop talking about you, and I finally have him, but I've lost everything else." I didn't reply, but I smiled, small, sharp, private. Because she was right. They thought they'd taken my life, but all they'd done was force me to build a better one. And tomorrow Daniel was planning to beg again, this time with papers, with promises. But I had plans of my own, and they wouldn't see me coming. Episode 4. The Unforgettable. The night he pinned me against the bedroom wall, breath ragged against my throat, body hard and desperate, as he whispered that no one had ever set him on fire like I did now. I didn't melt. I didn't forgive. I let him burn close enough to feel the heat, then stepped aside and watched the flames consume only him. Some endings aren't clean. They're raw, charged, lingering like the scent of smoke after the fire's gone out. And mine, it was the kind that left them both haunted. The weeks after I caught them blurred into a deliberate transformation. I moved through the house like a stranger in my own life, packing boxes quietly, changing locks on drawers, erasing traces of the woman who'd once centered her world around them. Daniel watched every shift with growing panic. His eyes followed me constantly now, dark with a hunger that hadn't been there in years. Not for the old Claire, for this one, the one who didn't need him anymore. He tried everything. Mornings, he'd corner me in the kitchen, close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from his skin. His voice would drop low, rough. "You're killing me, Claire. The way you move now, the way you look at me like I'm already gone. It's driving me insane." I'd sip my coffee unmoved. Good. Nights were worse. One evening, rain pounding the windows again, he found me in our bedroom, my bedroom now, folding clothes into a suitcase. He shut the door behind him, leaning against it like he was blocking my escape. "Don't do this," he said, voice thick. He crossed the room slowly, eyes locked on mine. When he reached me, his hands framed my face, gentle at first, then firmer, thumbs brushing my cheeks. I was a fool, blind. Ava was a distraction, a weakness. But you... His body pressed closer, heat seeping through fabric. "You're in my blood. Always have been. I see it now. God, I see you." His mouth hovered near mine, breath mingling, the air electric with unresolved want. I felt his pulse racing under my palms when I rested them on his chest, not to pull him in, but to hold him at bay. "I thought you'd always be there," he whispered against my lips, the confession raw, waiting, forgiving. I took it for granted. I met his gaze, calm and unflinching. "That was your mistake." For a second, his eyes darkened with pure desperation. He kissed me then, urgent, deep, like he was trying to pour 8 years of regret into one moment. His hands slid down my back, pulling me flush against him, body trembling with need. I let it happen. Let him taste what he'd thrown away. Let the heat build until he was breathless, pleading. Then, I pulled back, stepped out of his arms, wiped my mouth slowly. His chest heaved. "Claire, I'm leaving tomorrow. The papers are signed. The house is yours if you want it. I don't." He dropped to his knees, actually dropped, hands gripping my hips like I was the only thing keeping him upright. "I'm obsessed with you. I can't sleep, can't think. Every time you walk past me without a glance, it rips me apart. Please, give me a chance to prove." "No." The word was quiet, final. He stayed there, forehead pressed to my stomach, breathing me in like a drowning man. But I stepped away, and this time, he didn't follow. Ava wasn't handling it any better. Word travels in small circles. People noticed the changes. My new style, sharper edges, the way I carried myself like I owned every room. Social media lit up with photos. Me at openings for my design business, laughing with new friends, traveling solo to places I'd always talked about but never gone. Ava saw it all. Her messages started trickling in, first concerned, then edged with something sharper. "You look incredible. Happy? Really? He's miserable without you. We need to talk, for real this time." I didn't reply. Then, one afternoon, I ran into her at a cafe downtown, the one we used to call ours. She was at a corner table, alone, staring at her phone. Daniel's name on the screen I caught from a distance. I ordered my coffee, paid, and turned to leave. She stood quickly. "Claire!" I paused, looked at her. She'd lost weight. Her eyes were shadowed, the charismatic glow dimmed. She stepped closer, voice low. "Can we just 5 minutes?" I sipped my drink, said nothing. Her gaze flicked over me, taking in the sleek dress, the confident posture, the absence of the wedding ring. Something twisted in her expression, jealousy, raw and unmistakable. "You're thriving," she said, almost accusing. "Without him, without us." I met her eyes steadily. She leaned in, voice dropping. "He can't stop talking about you, how you've changed, how untouchable you are now. It's eating him alive. And me? I thought I won. I have him. But he's not really here. Not with me." Her hand reached out, brushing my arm. Old habit, old intimacy. I didn't flinch, but I didn't lean in either. "I miss you," she whispered. "More than I thought possible. You were my safe place too, Claire. And I destroyed it for this." For the first time, I spoke. "You didn't take my husband, Ava. You revealed who you both are." Her breath caught, tears welled but didn't fall. "And now?" she asked, voice small. "Now, I'm the woman you can't forget, the life you can't have back. I stepped around her, walked past my former best friend as if she no longer existed. Outside, the sun was bright. I didn't look back. Months later, I heard the rumors. Daniel couldn't let go. He'd ended things with Ava. Too much guilt, too much obsession with what he'd lost. He showed up at my new apartment once, late at night, rain-soaked and wrecked, begged through the door, left flowers that wilted on the mat. Ava moved away, couldn't stand the reminders, couldn't stand seeing echoes of me in every corner of the life she'd coveted. And me? I built something new, a business that flourished, friendships that were real, reciprocal, dates that were light, careful, trust earned in inches, not given freely. One night, months in, I stood on my balcony overlooking the city lights. A man I'd been seeing casually texted, patient, kind, waiting for me to decide if he was worth the risk. I smiled. Not yet, but maybe. Because the pain had done its work. It hadn't destroyed me, it had awakened me, from devoted to self-possessed, from emotionally open to guarded in the healthiest way, from a wife who centered others to a woman who centered herself, taken for granted to impossible to replace. They expected tears, forgiveness, collapse. Instead, I became the woman they couldn't read, couldn't control, couldn't forget. You broke the life I protected, and in shattering it, you showed me the woman I had to become, stronger, sharper, unforgettable, and finally, free.